All right, hello, welcome to Video Brainstorm. I'm meteorologist Matt Gray. Let's talk about fog, because it is not just Thanksgiving season. It is not just approaching shopping season for the Christmas holidays or whatever you celebrate. It is not just approaching winter. It is also fog season around the inland Northwest. And over this weekend, we've had a great example of the type of weather patterns that we get to where we end up with some pretty dreary and foggy weather, and we get a lot of those as we go through November, December, and January, as my colleague Chris Crocker can attest. So what is behind all this? What causes all the fog that we get around here? And what are some of the things that we have to think about? So, first of all, generally, when we talk about day after day of cloudy weather and foggy weather, it usually means that our weather pattern is pretty stable. It usually means we have a very stable atmosphere. There's not a lot going on. And when we take a look at weather maps, usually that means that we're talking about high pressure. And that's exactly what we have seen throughout the weekend, and at least for the very, very slight beginning of the week. This is actually looking higher up in the atmosphere. This is about 10,000 feet or so. And the weather at this level actually ends up driving a lot of what happens below it down at the ground. And there's higher and lower pressures up here as well, based on it's a lot colder up north, it's a lot warmer down south. And right about where the United States is where you have these kind of clashes between the cold and the warm. Now, as you get higher up in the atmosphere, this produces what we call the jet stream. So you have those different types of air colliding, cool and dry, warm and moist, and that creates wind, and it ends up with these very strong belts of winds called the jet stream. And generally, especially as we go into the winter season, where the jet stream goes, the wet weather and the nasty weather is sure to follow. And what we call high pressure and the calm weather that we have seen throughout the weekend here in the inland Northwest, those are called ridges. And then when we end up with kind of the clear and very chilly weather, usually after we have some stormy weather, we call that a trough, where low pressure swings in down from the north. And this is a great idea of kind of the setup of where it is now. Basically, when we have high pressure above us, we have sinking air. And so that usually creates a pocket of warm air a little bit higher up in the atmosphere. We end up with a warming trend, usually down at the ground. But this time of year, what's special is that, especially when we have winds at the north, like we saw earlier in the week, we end up having what we call a temperature inversion. And so you have cool air right at the ground, warm air is on top of it. Because warm air wants to rise, cool air wants to sink, it's very difficult to break that up. And so when air does rise up, cooler, moisture air, when it reaches that warmer section, it condenses, it creates clouds, and the clouds are essentially a feedback loop to where now we can't get more sunshine in, we can't warm up the ground, we can't break the inversion. So it takes a lot. Usually it takes another weather system coming in to break the inversion and, be able to help us have some clear skies. And until that happens, we'll end up with pretty cloudy weather across much of the inland Northwest. And that is coming as we go into Monday and Tuesday as the front moves in. We'll see the winds kick up, and that'll help mix up those inversions in the atmosphere. But in the meantime, as we cool down, we'll start to moisten up through the night. That leads us to fog and things like that in the morning, and we end up with clouds throughout the course of the day. And especially with high pressure in the fall and the spring and the winter time, this ends up becoming a pretty common issue for us. One of the reasons why this is the absolute dreariest time of the year. So we actually are very highly ranked as far as dense fog days per year. Not as much as on the coast. Certainly, they end up with lots of temperature inversions, and they also have the influence from the cold Pacific Ocean, something called the marine layer, if you've lived over on the West Coast. And so that really makes it cloudy a lot of the time, even outside of the fringes of the winter season. But even here, 20, 30, and in some cases, right on the base of the Cascades, 40 days worth of dense fog days. That's a lot. So I will definitely have my sun lamp on as we head through the month, and hopefully we can get some peaks of sun, more peaks of sun in there from time to time. Usually, if we're getting more sunny days, it usually means there's a lot more active weather. And considering that we're expecting to see La Nina type winter, where we have more active storm systems moving across the Northwest, that probably means, ironically enough, that we'll have more sunshine too. I know, crazy to think, but just a little explanation for you of why this is also fog season and dreary cloud season around the inland Northwest, in addition to the snow and all the other more active stuff that happens around here. So I want to thank you for watching the video Brainstorm. Like and subscribe to the 4 News Now YouTube channel. We have a good selection of stories, not just these video Brainstorm episodes, but also breaking news and weather forecasts for your daily life and everything else you need right here on YouTube. I love this platform. I think it's a great way to communicate with people. Hopefully you will agree and choose us to help get your local news here in the inland Northwest. Have a great rest of your weekend, and if we don't see you before then, happy Thanksgiving.